Everything was fine. Until it wasn't. We laughed. We kissed. We planned a future. And then everything just cracked. Not all at once, but piece by piece. My name's Jason. I'm 34, work in construction management in a mid-sized town in Ohio. Nothing fancy. Blue-collar blood, always have been. I met Amber at a 4th of July barbecue 5 years ago. She had this wild, carefree laugh and legs that went on for days. But what really got me? Her eyes. They locked on you like she was listening with her soul. We moved fast. Too fast maybe. By the end of that summer, she was living in my apartment, decorating it with string lights and cheap IKEA furniture. We made it work. She worked retail back then. I was already on job sites managing teams, chasing deadlines, always covered in dust and sweat. But I didn't mind. I liked the grind. I liked coming home to her. She used to meet me at the door, barefoot in one of my old t-shirts with that soft smile like I was the only man alive. Back then, I thought I was lucky. I thought I won. And maybe for a while, I did. Things started changing about a year ago. Work got rough. Our biggest project, a new apartment complex on the west side, hit delay after delay. Permits, weather, bad subcontractors. You name it, it went wrong. I started coming home late. Tired. Frustrated. I'd bring that stress with me whether I wanted to or not. Amber tried to be supportive at first. She'd rub my shoulders, cook my favorite pasta, tell me to just hang in there. But soon I noticed her patience thinning. Her eyes didn't light up when I walked through the door anymore. The dinner stopped. The little notes in my lunchbox disappeared. And then came the silence. I remember one night, Thursday. I came home to an empty apartment. No note. No text. Just silence. It was almost midnight. I tried to call her. No answer. Called again. Straight to voicemail. She walked in at 2:47 a.m. Drunk. Smelling like tequila and someone else's cologne. I stood in the kitchen, arms crossed. My heart racing like I'd just run a damn marathon. Where the hell have you been? She looked at me, eyes glassy, and just shrugged. Shrugged. Like I was a stranger asking for the time. I was out, she slurred. Don't be so dramatic. Dramatic? That night we didn't talk. She went straight to bed. I slept on the couch, staring at the ceiling, my thoughts like knives. The next morning, she made pancakes like nothing happened. Smiling. Humming some stupid pop song. And I started to feel it, that slow, gnawing dread. The feeling when you know something's wrong but you don't have the proof. Yet, I didn't want to believe it. But something inside me already knew. The woman I loved was slipping away. And someone else was pulling her closer. The lies didn't start loud. They whispered. Quiet little changes that seemed innocent on the surface. A longer shower. A second glass of wine. A laugh at a text she wouldn't show me. Things a man could easily overlook if he wanted to. At first, I made excuses for her. Told myself she was just stressed, too. That maybe I wasn't being fair. I wasn't present. I was coming home late, not talking much, falling asleep on the couch half the time. Maybe I was the one losing her. But then I started noticing things that didn't make sense. New clothes. High-end stuff. Brands I knew damn well we couldn't afford, especially not with me working overtime just to keep us afloat. I asked about them, she said they were gifts from friends or stuff she found on sale. Always so casual. Like she forgot I knew our bank account balance better than I knew my own social security number. And then came the phone. She never used to guard it. It would sit face up on the table while we ate, while we watched TV. But now? She kept it glued to her. Locked, face down. She'd tilt the screen away when a message popped up, laugh, and then say it was just her friend Kelsey. Every damn time, Kelsey. One night, I couldn't take it anymore. She fell asleep early, too early after a long day with her friend. Her phone was charging on the nightstand and my gut told me to look. I hated myself for doing it. I'm not the kind of guy who snoops. I believe in trust. But when trust starts to rot, sometimes you have to dig through the filth to see just how bad it smells. I picked up her phone. It was locked, but I knew her passcode, her birthday. I told her once it was dumb to use that. She smiled and said, "What, you gonna rob me?" The screen lit up. I opened her messages. There was no thread with Kelsey. None at all. But there was someone named T. No last name. Just T. The messages weren't explicit, not exactly. But they were intimate. Comfortable. Familiar. Little jokes. A photo of her in a dress she told me she bought for our anniversary, now sent to him with a thoughts? Face-blowing kiss. I kept scrolling. The pit in my stomach grew deeper with every tap of my thumb. There were meetups. Hotel references. I can't wait to feel you again. Last night was perfect. He's still clueless. That one hit like a punch to the ribs. He's still clueless. I dropped the phone on the bed like it was poisoned. My hands were shaking. My mouth went dry. She was right there, asleep beside me. Peaceful. Dreaming. While my whole world was cracking open in the dark. I sat on the edge of the bed, staring into the void. Trying to make sense of it all. I wanted to wake her up. Scream. Demand the truth. But I didn't. I didn't say a word. I just sat there in silence, listening to her soft breathing, feeling like the biggest fool on earth. Because she wasn't just cheating on me. She was laughing behind my back. Mocking me. Planning whole nights with another man while I was busting my ass to keep our lives together. And the worst part? I still wasn't ready to leave. After that night, I didn't sleep. Not really. I lay there, eyes wide open, listening to every shift of the sheets, every sigh from her lips. The bed felt foreign, like I was lying beside a stranger wrapped in the skin of the woman I once loved. In the morning, I pretended everything was fine. I kissed her cheek, said, "Have a good day," and went to work like I hadn't just discovered my heart lying in pieces on the bedroom floor. At work, I was a shell. Dead-eyed. Distracted. The crew noticed. My foreman, Rick, pulled me aside and asked if everything was all right. I told him I was just tired. He didn't push, thank God. I don't think I could have kept it together if someone had looked at me too closely. Every hammer hit sounded like a gunshot. Every time my phone buzzed, my stomach turned. I was drowning in noise, in dust, in anger I had nowhere to put. But I kept going. Because that's what men like me do. We carry the weight. We fix what's broken. Except this time, the break wasn't in a wall or a pipe. It was in my chest. At home, things got worse. Amber started staying out later. She always had an excuse: work, drinks, girls' night, some new yoga class. She started dressing differently, too tighter, flashier, like she was 21 again and out to impress. And the way she looked at me, it changed. Her gaze used to be warm, soft. Now it was distant, calculating, like I was just furniture in her life. Something useful, but not worth thinking about. I tried to confront her once. Just once. It was a Friday night. She was heading out, dressed to kill, short black dress, red lipstick, heels I'd never seen before. I stood in the doorway, blocking her path. "Where are you going?" I asked, my voice calm, too calm. She rolled her eyes. "Out. I told you Kelsey's birthday." I didn't move. "Funny. You haven't texted Kelsey in months." That stopped her. Just for a second. Her eyes narrowed. "Are you checking my phone now?" "What, you don't trust me?" I stared at her. My jaw clenched so tight it hurt. "Should I?" She scoffed. Actually scoffed. "You're being paranoid. Maybe if you weren't always at work or moping around like a depressed dog, I wouldn't need to find fun somewhere else." That hit harder than any truth she could have told me. She walked out. Left me standing there with my fists clenched and my heart shattered all over again. And in that moment I realized something brutal: I had already lost her. Not just to another man, but to a version of herself I didn't recognize. The Amber I loved was gone. This woman was colder, sharper, more selfish. And maybe she had always been like that, maybe I just hadn't seen it until now. But I still couldn't leave. Not yet. I wasn't ready. I needed to understand the whole truth. I needed to see it with my own eyes, hear it with my own ears. Because part of me still hoped, foolishly, desperately, that I was wrong. That somehow this nightmare was just a misunderstanding. That the woman I gave everything to hadn't actually thrown it all away for a thrill and a stranger's bed. So I started watching. Waiting. And what I discovered would rip away the last pieces of hope I had left. It was a Wednesday night when I finally gave in and followed her. She said she was going to a late spin class, her new obsession, supposedly, but something about the way she said it didn't sit right. She didn't look me in the eye. She barely touched her dinner. She spent more time choosing her outfit than most people do for a wedding. I sat there in silence, watching her rehearse her lies in the mirror, fixing her lipstick like it was armor. The moment she walked out the door, I grabbed my keys, threw on a hoodie, and followed from a safe distance. My heart was pounding so loud I could feel it in my ears. I wasn't sure what I was hoping to find. Maybe part of me still thought I'd see her walk into a gym, laugh with some girls, and I'd feel stupid and guilty for not trusting her. But deep down I knew. I knew I wasn't chasing paranoia, I was chasing confirmation. She didn't go to the gym. She drove across town to a motel, not a seedy dump, but not the kind of place you go for a good night's sleep either. I parked far enough not to be seen and watched as she pulled into the lot. Her brake lights glowed for a moment, then she stepped out. And then he appeared. Tall, clean-cut, wearing a blazer like he just got off work in an office downtown. He walked straight up to her and kissed her, not a peck, not a greeting. A kiss full of hunger and familiarity. Her hands slid up his chest like she'd done it 100 times. And maybe she had. They walked inside together. Like it was routine. I just sat there in my truck, staring at the door they disappeared behind, unable to move. My entire body was numb. There it was, the truth I'd been avoiding. My fiancée, the woman I built a life with, sacrificed for, dreamed with, was cheating on me in the most blatant, cruel way possible. While I was working myself to death trying to salvage a project that could have put us on solid ground for years, she was sneaking off to motel rooms with a guy who probably never had to lift a bag of cement in his life. I don't remember how long I sat there. It could have been 10 minutes or an hour. Time stopped meaning anything. I didn't cry. Not then. I just felt this cold, hollow space open up inside me where my chest used to be. Like something sacred had been scraped out of me and thrown away. Eventually, I drove home. I didn't wait for her. I didn't call. I didn't rage or scream or smash something, though I wanted to. I just went back to our apartment, sat on the edge of the bed, and stared at the wall. Her perfume still lingered in the air, mixed with something I now hated. She came home around midnight. Quietly. Tiptoeing like a teenager sneaking in after curfew. I pretended to be asleep. She slid into bed beside me like nothing had happened. Her breathing was calm, steady. I wondered if she could feel my rage radiating through the sheets. In the dark, I made a decision. This wasn't going to end with yelling. This wasn't going to be some messy breakup with broken dishes and slammed doors. No. If she wanted to play games, I was going to beat her at it. But not with lies. With clarity. With control. I was going to let her dig her own grave. And when she was done, I'd be the one handing her the shovel. In the days that followed, I became someone I didn't recognize, not because I was pretending, but because the man I used to be had died the moment I saw her walk into that motel. I still got up every morning at 6. Still drank my black coffee. Still drove to the job site and dealt with stubborn contractors and city inspectors who couldn't give a damn about my deadlines. But I was different. Colder. Focused. Mechanical. Amber, meanwhile, was flourishing. Or at least pretending to. She started humming again. Laughing too loud at her phone. Making plans for weekends I wasn't invited to. It was like the guilt, if there ever was any, had melted off her skin and been replaced with boldness. The lies weren't even clever anymore, just lazy. She stopped mentioning Kelsey. Now it was a work friend, networking events, or the classic, I just need some time to think. She had no idea I already knew everything. I had gone back to her phone and screenshotted everything. Every message, every hotel address, every time-stamped kiss emoji. I uploaded it all to a private folder on my cloud drive, like evidence in a trial. Because that's what it was, a trial of my life, and she was the one on the stand. But I didn't confront her. Not yet. I wanted to understand more. Who was he? What did he have that I didn't? I started doing some digging. The guy's name was Tyler. I found it in a text where she said, "Don't worry, Tyler, he's completely in the dark." I laughed when I read that. A short, bitter sound that didn't feel like it came from me. He worked in finance. I found his LinkedIn. Clean face, smug smile, senior portfolio advisor. One of those guys who probably thought calluses were something poor people got. He had a nice car, lived in a high-rise downtown, probably never had to worry about credit card bills or how to stretch groceries until Friday. And that's when it hit me, she wasn't cheating for love. She was cheating for comfort. Amber had tasted the possibility of an easier life and she wanted it. Not earned. Not shared. Just handed to her, gift-wrapped in cologne and cufflinks. While I was out in the rain managing crews and calling in favors to keep projects on track, she was sipping overpriced cocktails on rooftop bars pretending she wasn't still tied to the man paying for her Netflix. It was betrayal, yes. But worse, it was transactional. Calculated. And that cut deeper than any affair built on lust. One night, I watched her sleep. I stood by the edge of the bed for a long time, just staring at her. Her face looked peaceful, like nothing in the world was wrong. She had no idea I'd seen it all, felt it all, lived through every second of her deception. I wanted to scream. I wanted to shake her awake and show her the truth. But I didn't. Instead, I whispered something so quiet she never even stirred. I hope he's worth everything you're about to lose. Because her reckoning was coming. And I wouldn't be there to catch her when she fell. I spent the next 2 weeks laying the groundwork, not for revenge, but for escape. Quietly. Carefully. Like someone defusing a bomb they helped build. I opened a new bank account in my name only, transferred just enough to avoid suspicion, and rerouted my direct deposit. I copied every important document, from tax returns to lease agreements, and stored them on a flash drive I hid inside my toolbox. Every night, after she fell asleep beside me, her breath warm, her lies colder, I prepared to disappear from her life like a ghost. I also started recording. Not because I needed to prove her guilt, I had already seen enough to fill a courtroom. but because I wanted to remember how it felt. The silence, the fake smiles, the smell of betrayal on her skin. I took photos of her texts, videos of her coming home at odd hours, even recorded one of her phone calls while she stood in the kitchen talking to him in that soft voice she used to use with me. It was surreal, like living in a movie I didn't audition for. I caught myself wondering if this was happening to someone else, some idiot too blind to see the cracks until they swallowed him whole. But it was me. It had always been me. I scheduled a day off from work. Told Rick I had a family matter. He didn't ask questions. He'd seen the tired in my eyes. The day before, I made sure Amber had a full schedule. She said she was volunteering at a charity gala. I nodded, kissed her forehead, and told her to have a great time. The moment she left, I moved fast. I packed only the essentials: clothes, tools, my computer. Left the rest. Let her keep the furniture, the TV, the apartment she'd already turned into a museum of our fake life. I wasn't taking memories. I was taking freedom. But I left one thing behind. On the kitchen table, I placed a manila envelope. Inside, a printed copy of the texts with Tyler, screenshots of the hotel bookings, a photo of her kissing him in the parking lot. I didn't add a letter. No goodbye. No closure. Just the truth, raw and undeniable. But I did one more thing. I logged into our shared Netflix account, the one still under my name, and changed the profile icon on hers to a snake. Just a petty little scar to leave behind. I figured if she could watch entire seasons of her betrayal play out in real life, she could handle that symbol too. I walked out the door and didn't look back. My new apartment wasn't much. Smaller, colder, with beige walls and a leaky faucet. But it was mine. No ghosts. No lies. Just silence, and this time, the good kind. The kind that doesn't accuse or hide. The kind that lets you breathe. That night, I turned off my phone. Didn't care how many times she'd call or what half-baked lies she'd offer to patch the hole she tore through her life. Because I was done listening. I wasn't going to be her fallback. Her plan B. Her doormat. She chose another man. She could live with that choice. Alone. The calls started the next morning. 17 missed before noon. Then came the texts. First a simple, "Where are you?" Then, "What is this?" followed by, "We need to talk." "Please, Jason?" I ignored them all. She kept trying, longer messages, angrier ones, desperate voice notes that went from defensive to pleading. She swung through every stage of grief in 24 hours. But I didn't answer. Not because I didn't have anything to say, but because I finally understood that nothing I said would matter to someone who never truly listened. Then she came to the job site. I was checking the concrete mix on the East Wing foundation when I saw her car pull up, that silver Hyundai I used to wash every Sunday while she made lemonade and played music from the kitchen. She stepped out looking like hell, no makeup, red eyes, wearing one of my hoodies like it was some kind of olive branch. For a moment, I felt that old ache again, the part of me that still remembered who we used to be. But it passed like a cloud over the sun. She called my name. Loud. People stared. I walked toward her slowly, not because I was uncertain, but because I wanted her to feel every second of that silence between us. She tried to speak first. "Jason, No, I said, my voice steady, cold, final. "You don't get to speak first." Her mouth shut. She looked smaller than I remembered. Not physically, emotionally. Like all the confidence and sparkle she wore had been stripped away, and underneath it was just someone hollow. She started crying. Real tears. Not the kind she faked to win arguments. Not the ones that came with manipulation and rehearsed regret. These were raw. Ugly. "I made a mistake," she whispered. "I didn't mean to, "Yeah, you did," I cut her off. "You meant every message. Every kiss. Every time you laughed about me being clueless. You meant all of it. And now that you're caught, you want to rewrite it like it was some moment of weakness. It wasn't. It was a pattern." She reached out and I stepped back. She tried a different tactic, the one I knew was coming. It didn't mean anything. It was just escape. "But you, Jason, you're real? I love you." I never stopped. I looked at her, and for the first time in weeks, I felt absolutely nothing. "You stopped the moment you chose someone else," I said. "Love doesn't look like hotel keys and secret texts. It doesn't smell like another man's cologne. It doesn't lie. And I'm done pretending that it does." She broke down right there in front of my crew. I should have felt vindicated. Maybe even a little cruel satisfaction. But I didn't. All I felt was tired. Like I had been carrying something heavy for too long, and finally it had slipped off my shoulders. I turned and walked back to the site. Left her standing there in the gravel and dust of everything she destroyed. I didn't look back. That night, she left a handwritten letter at my door. I didn't read it. Just tossed it in the trash with the pizza box and the empty beer bottle. I knew what it said: apologies, justifications, maybe a few memories thrown in like emotional bait. But I wasn't biting. The chapter was over. The book was closed. And I was already writing something new. The first week without her was strange. Not painful, not even lonely, just quiet. I could hear the buzz of the fridge, the creak of the ceiling fan, the sound of my own thoughts without her voice constantly layering over them. I had expected heartbreak to come crashing in like a hurricane, loud, chaotic, devastating. But it came like fog. Slow. Still. A little disorienting, but manageable. I'd wake up alone, make coffee, sit in the tiny kitchen of my new apartment, and realize no fights. No lies. No pretending. Just me, my scars, and a peace I hadn't known in years. Work became my refuge. Every beam I placed, every blueprint I corrected felt like rebuilding something inside myself. My crew noticed the change. Rick gave me a nod one morning and said, "You're walking different." I just smiled. Because I knew what he meant. I wasn't dragging around the weight of uncertainty anymore. I wasn't waiting to be lied to. I wasn't loving someone who didn't love me back. I didn't tell anyone the full story. Not yet. What happened between Amber and me was something I needed to carry for a while before I handed pieces of it to other people. But in those quiet evenings, sitting on a beat-up couch with a cold beer and a game on low volume, I started to feel like a man again. Not a broken version. A rebuilt one. Amber still tried reaching out. Less frequently now, but enough to remind me she hadn't fully let go. She sent a long message one night saying she ended things with Tyler. That she realized she'd lost herself and wanted to start fresh with me. She even mentioned couples therapy, saying she was willing to put in the work. For a second, just a second, I felt that old tug in my chest. The part of me that remembered lazy Sundays in bed, her head on my shoulder, the way she used to trace circles on my skin. But then I remembered the motel. The texts. The contempt in her voice when she thought I wasn't listening. And I remembered myself. The man who stayed. The man who gave everything. I didn't reply. I archived the message, blocked her number, and deleted every photo of us from my phone. Not out of bitterness, but clarity. She had made her choice, and now I was making mine. I wasn't going to waste another second romanticizing a woman who watched me fall and didn't flinch. I started writing again, not professionally, just in a notebook. Journaling. Letting the thoughts bleed out onto the page so they wouldn't rot inside me. It helped. Sometimes I'd write a single line and stare at it for 10 minutes. Sometimes I filled entire pages in one sitting. It was like laying bricks, slowly rebuilding the house of myself. One night, as the sun dipped below the horizon and the whole town turned golden and quiet, I sat on my tiny balcony, legs up on the railing, and whispered to no one in particular, "I'm going to be all right." And for the first time since everything fell apart, I actually believed it. Healing didn't come all at once. There was no great revelation, no fireworks, no single moment when I looked in the mirror and said, "I'm whole again." It came in fragments. Small, quiet wins. The first time I walked past our old apartment complex without looking up at the third-floor window. The first time I saw a couple holding hands and didn't feel bitterness claw at my gut. The first time I really laughed at something stupid on TV and realized I hadn't thought about her all day. I started to notice the world again. Not just move through it. Trees looked greener. Coffee tasted stronger. Music hit different. I found myself rewinding songs just to hear the lyrics again, not because they reminded me of her, but because they reminded me of me, the version of myself I used to be before I let her redefine my worth. I made peace with the silence. The kind that used to haunt me. I stopped needing to fill every gap in my day with noise or distraction. I could sit with myself now comfortably. And that was the biggest shift, learning to live without constantly reaching for someone who was never truly there to begin with. People started to notice. My buddies invited me out again, and I started saying yes. At first, just out of politeness. Then out of curiosity. Eventually, out of genuine desire to reconnect. There was laughter again. Bar nights that ended in stupid stories and sore cheeks from grinning too much. I wasn't trying to impress anyone. I wasn't scanning the room for replacements. I was just present. Amber became a memory. Not a ghost. Not a scar. Just a chapter. A heavy, complicated, painful chapter, but no longer the one that defined the whole book. Sometimes when I saw her name in an old email or stumbled across an old receipt from a restaurant we used to frequent, I felt a flicker of something. Not longing. Not regret. Just distance. Like remembering a dream you can't fully piece together anymore. It happened. It shaped me. But it doesn't own me. There were nights when the weight crept back in, when I'd wonder if I should have seen it sooner, if I'd wasted too many years, if I'd let love blind me. But those thoughts came less and less often. And when they did, I met them with grace, not anger. Because the truth is, I did what I could. I gave her everything I had. And in the end, it wasn't enough, not because I was lacking, but because she was already looking elsewhere. She didn't just cheat on me, she bet against me. And she lost. What she didn't realize was that the man she betrayed, the one she left behind, was about to become someone stronger than he'd ever been. Time passed. Not in a rush, not in dramatic leaps, just steady, like a river carving its way through stone. I didn't just recover. I transformed. Not because I wanted revenge or closure, but because I had no choice. When someone takes a wrecking ball to your life, you can either lie in the rubble or rebuild something stronger from the debris. I chose to rebuild. But I built it for me this time, not for the illusion of love, not for a future that someone else could so easily walk away from. I started doing things I hadn't done in years. I went hiking again, not just to clear my head, but to reconnect with that part of me that loved the grind, the climb, the silence of nature. I signed up for a weekend carpentry class, something I always said I'd do when things slowed down. They never slowed down, I just never made space for myself. Now I was carving space out of stone. One day I met someone new. It wasn't some cinematic spark or instant obsession. No, it was better. It was slow, easy, real. Her name was Lauren. She worked in marketing, loved dogs, hated olives, and asked thoughtful questions. She listened. I mean really listened, the kind of listening that makes you feel seen, not scanned. I didn't tell her about Amber at first. I didn't need to bleed on someone who didn't cut me. But eventually, I told her everything, not in a bitter monologue, but in a calm recounting of what had shaped me. She didn't flinch. She didn't pity me. She just said, "You didn't deserve that. But you survived it." We didn't rush. We didn't label. We just existed, two people who'd both been through hell and figured out how to live in the aftermath. And that, I realized, is what healing looks like. Not some perfect new beginning. Just a better middle. Amber tried to reach out once more. A mutual friend told me she was single again. Apparently, Tyler had moved on. Maybe found someone younger or less complicated. Who knows? Who cares? When I heard, I didn't feel smug. I didn't feel anything. I just hoped she found whatever it was she thought she was missing. Because I had found mine, not in someone else, but in myself. You see, betrayal doesn't always destroy you. Sometimes it exposes what you were ignoring. It strips away the fantasy and leaves you with reality. And reality, though painful, is where real strength is born. So here's the truth, not the sugar-coated version, not the Hollywood ending. She cheated. She lied. She left. And I lived. I learned. And I never looked back. Because sometimes the worst thing that happens to you is exactly what you needed to become who you were always meant to be. This was my story. My fall. But it's also my rise. And I wouldn't trade that for anything.